You're watching As It Happens. South Africans are finding it hard to make ends meet with the recent series of petrol price hikes and the VAT increase. But one organisation says it might have solutions on how government can deal with this crisis. The organisation Undoing Tax Abuse has submitted a dossier to authorities suggesting how government can ease the pressure on consumers. To discuss this further, we're joined by Ben Theron from Outa. Good evening to you, Ben. Before we get into the recommendations that you've made to the committee that's, of course, been tasked with looking into this matter, will you be attending the Working Class Summit tomorrow?
Unfortunately not. We're attending another summit, a conference, so I will not be able to attend the summit.
But in terms of what they are trying to achieve, just to get a sense of how civil society is responding to this, because they've, of course, it's an open invite to various organizations that are active and that I think are representing various causes to try and bring it all under one umbrella. Do you think that that is something that's possible in South Africa right now?
I think it's more than possible. I think it's very needed. And I think the willingness to actually start working together is becoming more and more possible. If you think back about 2017 and 2016, where civil society stood together, it actually helped a lot in raising issues, making sure that the South African voice is being heard, and eventually the change happened that we are now living in.
And of course, one of the big things that they're going to be talking about tomorrow is exactly what you've been working on. And this is, of course, the VAT increases and the submissions that you've made to the Presidential Commission that has been tasked with looking into this issue. What are the recommendations you've given them?
Let me just take a step back. Remember, a week ago, the President asked the economic cluster to come up with proposals to make sure that the normal citizen in the country, actually the problem is alleviated slightly. The economic cluster then said, we will then interface with civil society, labor, etc. We didn't wait for that. We immediately started working. We went out on the social media and we asked people to come up with suggestions. So the suggestion that we put in there is a combination, number one, of normal citizens suggesting to us, as well as internal research taking place that says these are easy things. That's the first point. The second point I want to make is the suggestions and proposal we're making is not long-term. The problem in South Africa is systemic. It is policy-driven. So the suggestions we made is short-term. It's something that the President can do for the next 3 or 4 months just to alleviate the problem. And remember, the indications are already that next month there will be another increase. So it's important that the President now, over the next few days, consider these things. So let me just talk to the specific points that you asked about. Number one, first of all, just off the cuff, tolls in South Africa is a major problem, and in Gauteng specifically, the e-tolls have run a burden on for a very long time. It's a failed system. The problem is that SANRAL, up until today, is still driving the collection thereof, and that is very costly. We are in a legal battle with SANRAL as we speak, and that's costing both the public and SANRAL a lot of money. And there are some issues inside there that we want answers on. For example, why are they appointing legal firms in Durban and Cape Town when the majority of the fines are in fact taking place in Johannesburg? So that's one. Number two, if you look at the tolls across the country on the long routes, those are VAT, the induced VAT. Now, if you can cancel the VAT there, there's immediate discount for the motorists as well. Then you've got to talk about the Road Accident Fund. The Road Accident Fund has increased dramatically over the last few years. And it's unfortunate that if you look at how the Road Accident Fund is being run, it is riddled with corruption. A week ago, the news broke of the Road Accident Fund actually spending 1,500 Rand per month for rental for chairs. You can buy a chair for less than 1,000 Rand. So something is very wrong there. And the Road Accident Fund is meant to take care of people that in actual fact were either injured in road accidents and due to no fault of themselves. And we know that that system is being revised at the moment so that people can actually get benefits of there. But those are just 1 or 2 or 3 of examples that we think the President can take seriously He can implement purely by bringing a proclamation, and then things will start easing for the normal citizens of Africa.
You know, when you touch on the issue of SANRAL and, of course, the tolls, you're going to something that has been also somewhat of a political hot potato over the last couple of years. Do you think that, given the decisions that have been made to avoid controversy, at least on the part of the governing party, that they would actually bring about those changes now?
Remember, there are two issues. The one is e-tolls, and I'll come back to that one now, and then is the issue of concessionaires. And the concessionaires, the long-distance ones, have gone up significantly as well. But let's come back to the e-tolls. It has been difficult to make contact with government. We've tried talking to ministers; they are just not available. Yesterday we broke the news, nothing to do with this case, but just to give you an example, about corruption in CETAs, where we can't get hold of the minister to bring to her attention, there's a problem, please address it. And millions today are getting wasted in that. So let's go back to the e-tolls. If you look at the amount of money that's being collected versus the money that's required to just maintain the system, the amount of money that's left over that actually goes to SANRAL is minute. So let's assume that they collect 40 million a month. 30 million goes to the operator, and 10 million is all that's left over that goes to SANRAL. SANRAL has bonds to the tune of 40 billion at the moment that has to do with the e-toll scheme. They've got to service those debts, and they are not servicing the debts because there is no money to do that. In addition to those costs that I'm talking about, there's a legal fee that goes on every month because they've got to send out notices for debt collection. They've got to pay the lawyers to pursue these matters, and it's costing millions and millions of taxpayers' money.
And let's talk about that long distance, the tolls that you were talking about a little bit earlier. You're absolutely correct when you talk about how they've gone up rather dramatically. In terms of percentages, what would you be looking at as potential decreases there?
Okay, there's a couple of different categories of tolls that we're talking about. We've calculated over the last 10 years, from 2008 to 2018, that the tolls collectively have gone up between 90 and 110%. In fact, if you look at inflation, the inflation has gone up by 70%. So in those instances, the toll fees have actually gone up higher than what the inflation was supposed to go up. The inflation actually went up. So that is unfortunate. And then in addition to that, obviously there's a VAT portion is that. So if the government just purely says, let's scrap VAT on the toll fees, there's a 15% immediate discount on that. And that would help the normal citizen in the country. Remember, with the rail network that it is right now, road transport is the preferred mode of transport. And hence, big trucks, the normal trucks that travel between cities, can easily pay something like 180 Rand for every toll gate that they go through. That you and I pay for.
And you know, when you talk about also the road accident fund, it brings us back to the fuel levy and the monies that, of course, go directly into the fund's account. What do you make of the call that the fuel levy be suspended for whatever amount of period, also as a mechanism to assist?
I didn't quite hear the question about suspension.
Yes, we've had the IFP and several other organizations backing that call for the fuel levy to be temporarily suspended during this period as a mechanism of assisting consumers, citizens.
Well, we don't think that suspending it entirely will work. Because remember, there are people that have actually been injured. They need to be paid. The cost there need to be covered. The RAF is a long-term problem, and you need to fix the system that's wrong. Because there are people, advocates, lawyers, medical practitioners that are all involved in this corruption scheme there. So that need to be sorted out on separate. What we are suggesting is, if the president decides tomorrow that he will lower the levy that goes to the RAF by 30 cents, it will immediately lower the petrol price by 30%, because that will then alleviate the problem for people in South Africa. The problem inside the RAF is a much, much bigger problem than what you and I can fix overnight.
All right. And have you heard back from the economic cluster yet?
No, I think today was a busy day for all of them. The president's overseas. A lot of the ministers today were at the launch of the telescope out in Sutherland. So I believe that they are a bit busy today. So we have to be a bit patient. We expect next week to start getting feedback. I want to suggest to the ministers, speak to civil society. It's not a problem that you can solve by yourself between 4 and 5 people. Society has the answer. Civil society can help you with the problems. Please reach out to us and other organizations to help you come up with solutions. And there will be practical solutions as we've given today. The document is there on our website. People are welcome to go and look at it. I want to share with people that the documents and the appendices on our website, and they are more than welcome to download them. This is something South Africa needs now. We need a break. We need a breather while government sort out the long-term issues.
All right, thanks for coming on to As It Happens. And of course, that was Outa's Ben Theron, bringing us into picture there. And it also brings us to the end of tonight's edition of As It Happens. I'm Cathy Mohlahlana.